Are you having a hard time deciding if renting or buying is best for you? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over the pros and cons of both renting and buying to help you make the best decision for you and your current lifestyle. So let's get started with the pros of renting. Number one, flexibility. You're going to have more flexibility as to where you can live. Renters can practically live anywhere, while homeowners, you're going to be restricted to homes that you can afford or what you've been pre-approved for, especially in areas like LA. If you want to live by the beach or in trendy neighborhoods, it's likely that you can afford to rent in those areas, but you don't always have the ability to buy there. So if that's important to you, renting might be a good option. Another pro in terms of flexibility is if you don't like where you're living, you just kind of wait out your lease and you can move easily. And that wouldn't necessarily be the case if you owned a home. Number two is going to be maintenance costs and repairs. One of the benefits of renting a home or apartment is there's going to be no maintenance or repair costs to you. That means that if you rent a property, your landlord is responsible for all maintenance and improvements. If something stops working, you get a roof in the leak, you just call your landlord and they are required to fix or replace it. So that's always cool. It's a limited cost. Number three is going to be you don't have property taxes. So one of the major benefits of renting versus owning is renters will never have to pay property taxes. And in some areas, property taxes can be thousands of dollars. So if you're worried about your overall finances and maybe that's just not something you can handle right now, renting is going to be a good option for you. However, there are some cons to renting. Number one is going to be instability. Landlords could decide they want to sell their property and you will likely have to vacate that. You also don't have a long-term fixed payment. Your landlord will likely raise your rent at the end of each year, so your rent is going to continue to increase. Number two is you cannot build equity if you're renting a property. And I hate when people say renting is burning money, because it's not. You need somewhere to live and you're paying for that service. So it's not bad to rent, however, you aren't building equity. And sometimes living by the beach is more important to you than building equity, just depending on where you are in life. And number three in the cons is going to be you are going to have less freedom in terms of you will have to follow, getting a little tongue-tied, you will have to follow the rules laid out by your landlord. Well, now let's get into the pros of home ownership. So this is the big one that you always hear. It's investing and building equity. You have to think about this in the long term, because when you invest in a home, it's not going to be something you're going to see in the first year. It will take you a while to really see that big jump in equity. That brings us to our number 2 point, which is pride of home ownership. Like I mentioned in the pros for renting, some people really want to live in the trendy neighborhood or by the beach. Well, on the flip side, some people really want to own their own home. They have a great sense of pride for someone too, and just bring you a lot of joy to know it's your home. Number 3 for pros is going to be long-term stability, in the sense that you can do whatever you want when it's your home and you don't have to worry about maybe, like we mentioned earlier, what if your landlord decides to sell the house and you have to move out and you have kids and you have to switch schools and different things like that. There is a big sense of stability when it's your home. You only have to move should you decide you want to. And it can also provide a lot of financial stability, especially in retirement years, because say you pay off your home and then when you're on this limited fixed income, you don't have that mortgage or rent payment. So that will help you live on a smaller income month to month. So now let's get into the cons, and that number 1 con is always going to be maintenance and repair. They can be very costly just depending on what your house needs. And usually whatever you see as a con for home ownership is going to be a pro on the renter side. So number 2 is going to be less flexibility. When you buy a house, you often hear people are like, oh, they call it putting down roots for a reason. It's not going to be as easy if you want to move. You're not going to just be able to pick up and go. It will require a lot more planning. Maybe you need to sell the house. Maybe you need to I hope this video was helpful to you and what is best for you in your current situation today. What's happening with us is always changing. So if renting might be a great option for this year, and in 2 years that might change. So if you have any questions or want to talk about any of the things I mentioned further, my information is listed below.